Hello, welcome into SportsZone. I'm your host, Trey Francis, and today we're going to be recapping the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the 49ers. And to do that with me here, I got Taggart Kent and Anthony Council. Taggart, going to start with you. Did this game go how you expected it to?
Pretty much, yeah. I expected a defensive battle. You had the defensive coordinator of the Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo, is known for shutting down great teams. I think it was the 2007 Super Bowl against the undefeated Patriots. And obviously he had a great defensive unit in the San Francisco 49ers.
And Anthony, what about you? Did it go how you expected? Did you think the Niners would kind of pull forward, or Mahomes is Mahomes?
Mahomes is Mahomes. I mean, you don't bet against Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. I mean, we've seen it with the Eagles. We've seen it with the 49ers back in 2019. You just don't bet against him. And I mean, when time gets down to a minute and 9 seconds, that's too much time to give Patrick Mahomes, especially in the fourth quarter or even in overtime. You just don't do that. It's like Patrick Mahomes is the Michael Jordan of the NFL, if you really want to think about it, because if you give him just a little bit of a second left, he's going to be able to win the game.
No, you're right, Anthony. We definitely talked about that all week. We're like, oh yeah, you cannot bet against Mahomes. He can get it done. I mean, 333 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 66 rushing yards. I mean, what else can you ask for? And the MVP. And now the halftime score, guys, 10-3. I mean, I thought that was kind of low scoring. Taggart, what was your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it could have been more high scoring, especially the 49ers didn't struggle to move the ball too much. They had a couple penalties and obviously the fumble from Christian McCaffrey earlier in the game that kind of slowed down good drives that they had going. But that Chiefs defense has been a really good unit all season. They slowed down an offense in the 49ers that had been good all season as well. And they forced them to throw the ball. I noticed on early downs a lot, they're putting 5, 6, sometimes 7 or 8 guys on the line and daring Brock Purdy to throw the football and saying, hey, you're not going to beat us with Christian McCaffrey. You're going to beat us through the air with Brock Purdy.
And Anthony, what did you think? I mean, obviously, first quarter, nada, and then 10-3 at half.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's basically kind of the same thing that you said. I mean, it was a defensive game the whole entire way. I mean, I think the thing with Kansas City, though, they try to play how the 49ers played, really fast and really efficient, but it just didn't work. And so Patrick Mahomes tried to play, with his arm, and it worked at times, but at times it just didn't. And I think it was just a defensive game the whole entire way. I mean, they barely got any yards when it comes to rushing. And I think that from halftime, that's really what you saw, was just really good defense from both sides.
Yeah, type of game if you're a football fan, you love to watch. I know casual fans love to see the offense, but from a defensive perspective, I mean, that was just a masterclass from both teams.
Yeah, if you're like a football fanatic, then you love the defense from both sides, for sure.
Yeah, Tiger, you touched on, I mean, obviously the average fan wants that score. Oh, let's go, 42-40, something high scoring like that, not something like what we saw. But going into halftime, and like I said already, 10-3, what did the Chiefs do coming out of the half that the Niners did not, Tiger?
Really offensively, they still came out struggling. You saw those first few drives. You had something going. You had the 3-and-out to start it, but still the offense took a minute to get there. What was big for me is those 3-and-outs from the defense against the 49ers, especially after the Patrick Mahomes interception on the first drive, that really slowly gained the momentum. And right when that not muffed punt, but the tipped punt hit, that's when it snapped. Boom, you get that first touchdown. Now you're back in the groove. The momentum's all on your side. It really started with the defense.
And yeah, and that punt, I mean, you have to know, once that ball comes down, do not touch it. Obviously, it's easy to say now, he shouldn't have went and touched it, but he did. Anthony, what were your thoughts coming into the second half?
I think the biggest thing was a player that's not named Travis Kelce. I mean, Rashid Rice really played a phenomenal game. Patrick Mahomes really looked at him to be really the main guy for this entire game, especially going into the second half and finding players in the end zone. I mean, you saw that one pass that was really crucial for them to give them their first touchdown, because they couldn't find anything in the first half. And I think also just playing smart. I mean, everybody saw the incident with Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, and that was probably one of the biggest things on the internet. But I think it gave them the momentum to really slow things down going out of halftime and coming back in, to really relax and understand that, okay, this is our game to win. Like they're already calling us the underdogs. They've called us the underdogs the whole entire way, and this is our game to win. So I think they calmed things down and they figured it out.
Yeah, when it comes to Super Bowls, obviously a lot is on the line, and Andy Reid and his coaching staff did a tremendous job, all game long. So Taggart, just how good is Andy Reid?
One of the things, to me at least, that makes a great coach is the ability to adjust. And Andy Reid, especially recently, has been the epitome of adjusting. Think about when he started in Kansas City and Alex Smith and even transitioning in the beginning of Patrick Mahomes' career. This was a team that pushed the ball down the field. They created deep play opportunities with Tyreek Hill and other playmakers like Travis Kelce. And as time has moved on, you've had less offensive talent. You've had some drops offensively. Travis Kelce hasn't had the best year. Obviously, you don't have Tyreek Hill. All of a sudden, your personnel starts to shift. You have a great run blocking line, a good running back, and a great defense. And he's kind of shifted this deep play mentality to kind of slow, dink and dunk, rely on your defense, rely on your running game, take what the defense gives you, and really his ability to adjust is unmatched. It's
Agreed, no doubt.
It's Bill Belichick-esque, if you will.
And he's done it, like I said, the last couple of years already. And since he touched on Andy Reid, Anthony, going to have you touch on Kyle Shanahan. What were your thoughts on him throughout this game, and how did he adjust?
I mean, okay, Kyle Shanahan played a good game. He played good from the first quarter all the way to the fourth. I just don't understand how in overtime you don't know the rules. You have 2 weeks to get prepared for the Super Bowl, and you're not prepared in overtime. That's the biggest stain that's going to be on him. And yes, I get it. You just fired your defensive coordinator just the other day, but that's not his fault, though. I mean, the defense played phenomenal, but you just have to pick up on little mistakes. This is the third time that you've made this mistake, and you can't keep doing this in the biggest game of your life, of your career.
And that defensive coordinator firing was just the biggest scapegoat I've seen in a while. I mean, the defensive coordinator isn't responsible for the right guard on the third down play in the 49ers in overtime when Juwan Johnson was wide open on the right side of the field, completely missing his block. He's not responsible for Nick Bosa falling for play action and allowing McCole Hardman to run free. He's not responsible for these things. It's a player issue at the end of the day. You can talk all about schemes. Sometimes it's not about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmies and Joes.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess we can all agree on, I mean, it was kind of rough for him. For him to fire Steve Wilks like that, I don't think it was, it didn't really do him justice. Maybe he's trying to, cover it up. Do y'all think maybe Kyle should have taken more of the blame himself?
I think he should have took more of the blame. I mean, it's not the defense's fault at the end of the day. Kyle Shanahan, he's been in these positions time and time again, and he's continued to make the same mistake over and over. I mean, you were ahead back in 2019, and you still made the same mistake against the same quarterback that you played this year. I think he has to go back and look at himself in the mirror, look at this team in the mirror, and just be like, okay, what are the things that I need to do in order to beat Patrick Mahomes or beat anybody in the Super Bowl? And he said that during the presser after he fired his defensive coordinator.
Yeah, it's obviously easy to say, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right?
Right.
But now the question is, guys, can the Chiefs three-peat? Taggart?
I mean, as you guys know, in football, it's super difficult. It's never been done before. I think if there ever was a chance in NFL history, this is the time. I think if you re-sign Chris Jones, you've drafted exceptionally well. It's unbelievable how good they've drafted. You think about Trey Smith, Trent McDuffie's an early draft pick for them. Isaiah Pacheco, L'Jarius Sneed. The past few years, they've taken those Tyreek Hill draft picks and really capitalized on them. This is a team that drafts super well. You bring back Chris Jones, continue to upholster that defense. You're going to lose guys like Willie Gay, Leo Chenal, but it's still going to be a good unit. And at the end of the day, you have Patrick Mahomes, so it's not going to be that difficult, but still a tough task.
Now let's quickly move on to early 2024. It's right around the corner. It'll come up a lot faster than we know. And there's some teams out there that struggled this year. Anthony, what are one or two teams that you think will have a turnaround season?
I think it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, I think that Kansas City, when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals and Kansas City's kind of scared of Cincinnati because Cincinnati's the only team that's beat them in the AFC Championship game, aside from, that guy named Tom Brady. But, Cincinnati's only one quarterback away, and they're still a really good team. You still have Jamar Chase. You still have that great defense. You still have great offense. I think when Joe Burrow comes back, it's going to be a different ball game for Cincinnati when they come back.
And Tiger, what do you think? What team you think has a chance next year?
Yeah, I think it's the easy one. It's the Bengals. I still don't think this is like a Super Bowl team. They've made it before, but a couple good things go your way. Obviously, that's the beauty of the NFL playoff. A couple bounces go your way, and all of a sudden you're in the Super Bowl. But still, this is a team that they didn't make the playoffs. It's still a great team. I think it's very easy, a team that didn't make the playoffs, to predict them. Hey, Joe Burrow's not going to be injured. Your quarterback's back. Now you're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, Tiger, right back to you guys. Real quick question for both of you. Let's go ahead and give our early predictions for next year's Super Bowl. Give me the two teams, Tiger.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna go Bills.
Okay.
Bills Lions.
Bills Lions, and Anthony, what do you got?
Bills Lions. Wow. Okay. I'm going. I think it's gonna be a rematch of Chiefs and 49ers. Honestly.
All right, and I'm going to have to go with the Ravens and Lions, and that's going to do it for our Super Bowl recap. And that also ends the NFL season, so we'll have a lot of events coming up. Training camp, all that will begin. But after this, we'll come back and talk about the Dallas Mavericks and how they're heating up. So stay with us.
Did you know you have access to video equipment like DVDs, video games, and cameras? That's right, you do. Come on down to Chilton Library and fulfill your media dream. Located on the bottom floor next to the student sculpture. Hope to see you there soon.
Hey girl, you know you look good. I like the way you move and groove. I'm not your
I'm so tired. I feel ugly. I'm not okay. I didn't know UNT had counseling services. Maybe I should check it out. This looks like the place.
So a man's been walking in the desert for days at a time. He finally comes across a bar and orders a Coke.
That's not funny.
Eh? Eh?
Welcome back into SportsZone. Now we're going to talk about these red-hot Dallas Mavericks. They made a couple of trades last week, and now they are booming. And to talk about that with me here, Jay Lathan and Isaiah Ortiz. Isaiah, going to start with you. Let's go ahead and talk about the Mavs versus the Wizards. They, like I said, Mavs are on this streak, but can they keep it up?
Yeah, a little bit of a shaky start in that Wizards game, but the fourth quarter they really brought it together. Luka and Kyrie with a great game. That's what you want to see from the duo that you traded for. 26 for Kyrie, 26 for Luka. But my star of the game was Daniel Gafford. I was a big fan of this trade. He comes in against his former team, 16, 17, 2 steals and 5 blocks on great efficiency. Just much more you can ask for Daniel Gafford.
Yeah, Jay, and for you, who showed up for the Mavericks against the Wizards?
I also had Daniel Gafford, but it's a little sneaky in there. Josh Green had 13 and 4 and shot 63% from the field. Like when you're giving up guys like Seth Curry and you're getting rid of Grant Williams as well, you got to find that third scorer that can come in somewhere off the bench when Luka or Kyrie is not in the game.
Yeah, now flipping sides, we're going to go over to the Wizards. And who showed up for the Wizards for you, Isaiah?
Yeah, I want to shout out Denny Advia. A great game. He's been hooping lately. Just had 43 points the other night, a career high. This game, he had 25 points, 7 rebounds on 64% from the field. Really great game. And then I also want to shout out Marvin Bagley, really benefiting from the Daniel Gafford trade. 12 points and 13 rebounds, 60% from the field. Since he's been traded to Washington, 13 points per game, 8 rebounds per game in 11 games, and now he's a full-time starter. Hopefully he finds a home in Washington, but just a great start for the number 2 overall pick.
And Jay, who did you like for the Wizards?
Yeah, I mean, per usual, if Jordan Poole, he's just bad guy. Kuzma, man, 23 and 8. He's a real consistent. He's the one bright spot that this Washington team really has right now.
Yes, him. And guys, we have to talk about Rashawn Holmes, former Maverick, getting out there 12 minutes, scoring 10 points. I think 12 minutes is more, if you put together several games for the Mavericks, that's more than or if you put together several games, for the Mavericks, then that didn't match up to what he played for the Wizards the other night. But what did the Mavs struggle with? They won, obviously, Jay, but what were a couple things that they struggled with that you thought?
I mean, interior defense has been a real problem for this team from last year's issue. I mean, it's been a long, ongoing issue. But as you watch the game, it's not necessarily that they don't have the size or the presence. It's more so the positioning. Like they're letting guys get leverage, and then they're just letting guys cut to the lane, which is giving them awkward positioning when they try to contest shots. And then also you have turnovers. It's a major issue. They're second in the league right now, averaging 12.3 turnovers a game, and they had 13 in that first half.
And do you think those turnovers are a result as they are trying to do a little too much sometimes, trying to get too fancy with it?
I mean, yeah, they had 27 assists in that game, which is obviously great. Jason Kidd's a pass-first guard in his playing days, so I'm sure he's emphasizing passing the ball, but you still need to take care of the ball.
Yeah, and Isaiah, in your opinion, what did the Mavs do well against the Wizards?
What they did well, I really liked their bench production, especially in the fourth quarter. They were down for most of this game, like I mentioned, but the role players, they really stepped up. Going down the line, Jaden Hardy had 8 fourth-quarter points. Maxi Kleber had 5. P.J. Washington, the new acquisition, even though he has struggled a little bit, 5 fourth-quarter points, and they were huge in that comeback win.
Yeah, and the Mavs, they were outscored in the second and third quarters, and luckily they had a good first and fourth quarter to put together a complete game, beat the Wizards, and keep this streak up. And now the Mavs have won, 5-6 games in a row, and they're keeping this hot streak going. So let's talk about Daniel Gafford for a second. The Mavs obviously got him last week in the trade. They haven't lost since. Jay, how has Daniel Gafford contributed to this Mavericks team?
I really feel like they're really trying to recover from the loss of Christian Wood there, as you know, they're trying to find that stretch four that can really do it all, space the floor out for this team, and allow Luka and Kyrie to work the mid-range game. And I feel like he's playing a role that's exactly what they need.
And Isaiah, what's your opinion on Daniel Gafford? How has he helped this Mavericks team, and especially in that Wizards game?
Well, I've always loved Daniel Gafford and what he can bring for a winning team on the floor. Obviously, didn't get to show that in his days in Chicago or Washington, but he's bringing that here. Always been a good rim protector and a great rebounder as well. And you mentioned Christian Wood. They've been looking for a rotation of big men for a while in the Luka era, and I think finally they have some resemblance of consistency with Gafford and Derek Lively off the bench, and maybe even P.J. Washington at the 5.
Yeah, Isaiah, definitely agree with you. He had 16 points, 17 rebounds, and 2 assists against his former team. But now, guys, let's go ahead and flip it over to the game from last night, Mavericks against the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama, Luka Doncic. You know it's going to be a battle, but the Mavs come out on top. Jay, what did you see from the Mavericks team that you liked last night?
Man, Kyrie, he took that young blood to school, man. I mean, he just had the killer instinct that came out right there. He had 34 points. 9 rebounds, 7 assists on 68% shooting from the field. Absolutely, like, you could see the lights in his eyes. They were just ready to go on attack mode. But also, you had Hardy off the bench with 13 in 20 minutes, like on 50% shooting as well. That effective type of scoring when Hardaway is not shooting the best right now is exactly what they needed.
Yeah, you got to love the bench production. You need that depth, especially as you get further along in the season and that playoffs kind of being right around the corner. Going to go to Isaiah now. What did you see from the Spurs that you liked? Who kind of led the charge there?
I mean, who else has been leading the charge?
You're right.
It's Wemby. I got him on my fantasy basketball team, too. You all saw what he did the other night, 10 blocks on a triple-double. I mean,
that's absurd.
He is the bright spot. Also want to shout out Malachi Branham. Has struggled a lot this season, but 19 points off nice efficiency last night. Pretty good.
And Jay, you mentioned it earlier, Mavs kind of struggling a little bit with some turnovers. What do you think they struggle with against that Spurs team? They beat them, but there's always struggles.
I think, once again, the defensive problems that we saw there is, once again, exposed here. They gave a lot of space on the perimeter for the Spurs to get off shots, and that was a major issue there. And then that interior force, P.J. Washington helped a little bit there, but they were still just unable to stop the drive.
And speaking about PJ, he had 3 points, 6 rebounds, went 1 for 6 shooting. Not his best day. What did you think? How did PJ Washington and Gafford do for the Mavs in this Spurs game, Isaiah?
I thought Gafford played well, only 2 points, but he's going to give you what he gives you: good rebounding and good defense. But PJ Washington, he has struggled from 3 a little bit. I believe his percentage is 31%. He's usually a good 3-point shooter, but this year he has struggled. So we'd like to see him get that percentage back up. But he's playing with so much space on the floor. I have confidence in him.
And Isaiah, right back to you real quick. The Mavericks are on this win streak. How many more games can they continue to play as well as they are?
Well, don't look at the opponent in front of you, obviously. You just got to look at, we're playing well. It doesn't matter who we're playing, even though we just played the Wizards and the Spurs. Keep going forward. Use this all-star break to regroup, really build that team chemistry, and hopefully get yourself back into Western Conference contention.
And Jay, what do you think?
I think it's the same thing as well. As this team really was kind of disturbed on whether Luka or Kyrie was going to be that guy. But I think they're starting to finally get that one season in their belt where they're gelling and learning who the top dog is. And they really just need role players to fill that role and just space the floor for these guys.
And that's exactly what both of them are doing. And these trades, they came last week, like I already mentioned. How are they going to help this Mavericks team going forward, Jay?
Going forward, I want to see P.J. Washington and Derek Lively gel together. I know Lively just came back from an injury, so, you have to figure out when you got new guys in. But I definitely have high outlooks for this team. I mean, Gafford has an interesting skill set similar to Wood as he's a stretch four, and I'm excited to see where this team goes.
And Isaiah Gafford coming from the Wizards, mentioned it already. How is he going to continue to impact?
He's going to continue to do what he does, like I mentioned, great rebounder, great rim protector, and really just a great rim runner as well, right? They've been looking for a guy like that. They have Derek Lively, but he's been off and on with injuries. Now you have two guys like that for Luka to work with in the pick and roll specifically. You were looking for that with Christian Wood last year. You don't have it. Maxi Kleba, those are two pick and pop guys, not really guys who can give you rim pressure. So he's going to help the Mavericks out with that tremendously.
And now over to the Washington trade. They gave up Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and a first-round pick. Jay, do you think they gave up a lot, a little? You think that's a good trade?
I think they gave up a lot, but I mean, when you have a guy in your locker room that's not necessarily the best in Grant Williams, I mean, you have to do what you have to do to save the chemistry. You don't want it to get that bad. So, I mean, after a while, I mean, we'll start to see as the season progresses whether it's really worth it, because I think there is a talent in Daniel Gafford, but who knows right now.
And Isaiah, what do you think? Did they give up? Did they sell the farm to get these guys, or it was a good trade?
Yeah, my opinion on P.J. Washington, he's an upgraded Grant Williams. He does a lot of things better than what Grant Williams can provide on the floor. My only problem is that first-round pick. They only had 3 tradable first-round picks, and due to the Stepien rule, I believe it's pronounced, they can't make any major trades. And there could be some big names on the market this offseason like Zion and Paul George. That's my issue with it.
Yes, and that will do it for the Dallas Mavericks. Now we're going to go over to UNT Hoops, so make sure to stay with us and don't go anywhere.
I'm here to rescue you.
Oh, my prince.
Não so fast.
This story is going to be awesome.
Good evening, my name is Amanda Hasbell and I'm joining you here today in the Union parking garage. Today we're going to be going over how to drive safely in the parking garage. Let's go see. Oh my god, this girl just got hit by a car. Let's go see what happened. Ma'am, are you okay?
Did you see that lady hit me with a car?
Yeah, we did. I got it all on video.
Oh my god.
Let's go over here and talk about how we can prevent that.
Yeah, not the hospital.
Well, right now we're going to ask you a couple questions on how we can drive safely in the parking lot. What are ways that we can be aware of our surroundings?
Oh, we can look both ways.
Jenna, also, how about putting the distractions away?
Yes, just like our phones, turning our music down, and also not focusing on our passengers.
Where can you get information on how to get a parking pass?
Transportation.unt.edu.
If you park in a garage, make sure you pay on the app or look for further instructions on how you should pay.
And remember, no pass, no park. Let's all try to keep our mean green community safe.
Remember, we're all in this together.
Drive safe.
Hello and welcome back into Sports Zone. Now we're going to talk about the UNT men's and women's basketball team. They've both been lighting it up, kind of had some bumps in the road, but now to talk about that with me, I have John Phillips and Austin Fernandez. Austin, going to start with you. This game against SMU, we're talking men's ball now. This game against SMU, they lost 71-68. What were your overall thoughts on this game?
My overall thoughts going through the games, I thought they were playing excellent. They had the lead for most of the game. And I just think, once again, they came in this close game situation in which they couldn't pull through. They kind of blew it again. And I just think it's a real stamina issue. And I think, those are my overall thoughts going on to it right now, is that they really need to work on their stamina.
And, John, they've had this lead. They've had leads in many games that we've seen. Why? Why does the team always lose when they had the lead the whole game?
I think it's just an experience issue. First-year head coach, we're moving up to a bigger conference. I think the lights are a little too bright. We're near the bottom in turnovers in the country. We're near the bottom in free throw percentage. This is a team that can't close out games because we can't do it well. I mean, you're never going to close out a game if you miss free throws and turn the ball over.
And yes, I totally agree with that. Austin, who are your stars for this men's team? I mean, they put up 68 points, So there were some playmakers out there, and who were they in your opinion?
For the stars for UNT, it's got to be Jason Edwards. I think he's taken a real workload for UNT, and I think when we're getting in this close game situation, I know we've been talking about it for so long already, but, I think when it comes to the end of the game, he's got so much pressure on his shoulders. And, I think it's beginning to become too much, but that's because he's the star player. He's the one who puts up the points. He's the one who can really get the offense rolling. And that's who I think our real star player is, if not John Buggs at the perimeter.
Yeah, Buggs is definitely going. You put him on the three-point line, and it's in. You can forget about it. John, who are your players that you looked at?
I have to agree with Jason Edwards. Before the season, I said he might be our next Tyler Perry. High praise, and he's kind of living up to it. He is an electric scorer, and he's been great. But I want to mention one SMU player because they did win the game. Jaheim Hudson, 11 second-half points, second on the team in boards and assists in that game. He had a really good game for them.
Yeah, SMU definitely got it done, 71-68. And what was your MVP?
For SMU, I also said Jaheim Hudson. I think it's crucial to have those contributions coming off the bench, both bench players having 14 points each. So, I think that's huge, especially for your starting players, not to put so much pressure, like I said, was, referring to Jason Edwards. I think that's huge for them, and that's definitely my MVP for SMU.
Yeah, and you just mentioned my MVP. I gave MVP to a player of the losing team because I figured you guys would pick him. So I went with Mr. Edwards, picking up 18 points. Now, there's a lot of things that Mean Green need to work on. And Austin, go ahead and touch on what are one or two of those things that they need to work on going forward?
As I referred to earlier, it's a real stamina issue, in my opinion. I think they're giving it all they got in the first half, right? They was going up with the lead, sometimes big time. And when you hit that second half, when you hit the second half of the second half, they're just really kind of burning out. Offense comes on a real dry spell. They're giving up a lot of buckets. And I think that's the big issue right now, is I think they need some contribution on their bench, because clearly you can't have your starting players in the whole time. They're burning out and they can't get it done late like they did against SMU, like against Florida State or Florida Atlantic and UAB. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. Those last 10 minutes for the UNT Mean Green have been a big struggle. John, what do you think they need to work on going forward in order to win these close games?
Like I said, the turnovers are so big. They have more turnovers than assists this year. They have a .91 assist to turnover ratio. That is horrendous. You can't turn the ball over that much and win games. You can't expect it.
So now losing to SMU, we've talked about it already, guys. What does this mean for the Mean Green conference-wise and going forward as we get closer to March? I'll go with you, John.
I think, earlier in the conference season, we were like, we might be making this step up. We were 5-1. We might belong here. And I think this loss and this losing streak we've had has shown us, this is a big conference. It's going to take a little bit of time to get to the top of this conference, and SMU really showed us that.
Yeah, those baby steps are going to be crucial. Austin, what do you think? What did this mean for the Mean Green and the conference?
I also kind of agree. I just think it means, looking conference perspective, it just kind of means that they're relatively average. Like, they can beat those teams like, Rice, UTSA, or East Carolina. But at the same time, they're also going to lose against their SMUs, your UABs, your South Florida. So, I think it just means that they're just kind of average right now. And that's all right. Like we said, it's a first-year head coach. We got some young, experienced players. So, I think when that experience factor comes in, I think if we could just get some more experience, maybe close in those closer games, I think they'll definitely become big time. But right now, I just think that they're kind of middle of the pack right now.
Yeah, it's tough being in a big conference like this. Whenever you don't have much depth, Austin, you touched on me, Matthew Stone on the bench. I mean, he's really the only one, John. Is there anybody else who you kind of want to step up for this team?
To be honest, I don't know anyone to step up. The bench has not been performing, and the only one I know is Matthew Stone with the 3 offensive rebounds against SMU. Someone else has to step up, but I don't know who that's going to be. The coaching staff has to determine that.
So, Austin, what do you think? Maybe over the next year or two, maybe they can get somebody that can help out this team? What are you thinking?
I definitely think so. It's just kind of hard to look at it right now. We had a star player, and then he transferred out. So you kind of have to look at the transfer, what's going to happen right there. So, I think it really goes on the head coach to really develop. I think he needs to get some experience himself. And I think that's all that matters right now, is just make sure our head coach really gets some experience under his belt, and maybe he can provide that leadership in the future seasons for our UNT.
Yeah, it's tough to keep a coach and your good players around whenever you win the NIT championship. Tyler Perry off to Kansas State. Coach Grant McCaslin off at Texas Tech doing big things as we see. So game tonight, guys, Memphis Tigers. Used to be ranked, now they're not. John, are they a scary team? You think they're going to really defeat the Mean Green big tonight? You think we have a chance?
I mean, I think you always have a chance. I don't believe in Penny Hardaway as a coach. I think his teams are badly coached. So you always have a chance against a badly coached team, but they have some talent. They have a member of Jelly Fam, Javon Quinterly. We can't handle that. We can't handle Naquan Tomlin or David Jones. That's just way too much talent for a team like us to handle.
And Austin, what do you think? How are we going to match against the Memphis Tigers?
In my personal opinion, we're not going to match against the the Memphis Tigers, unless they go down the street, sign Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic. They definitely need a prayer right now, a miracle. They're just so talented, and like you said, they were top 10 in the country at one point. They're beating teams like Clemson, like Virginia Tech. I think they're too big time. I think it would really require a Memphis choking job more than a UNT win.
I could definitely agree with that. Now we're going to switch over to UNT women's hoops. They're having a phenomenal season. They've won their last 2 games, beat SMU, beat FAU. We're going to start with the SMU game. They beat them 78 to 65. John, what did the Mean Green do well in that game?
Everything. I mean, we were kind of inefficient from the line and from 3, but the women's team is firing on all cylinders right now. Tamisha Lampkin, 3 straight double-doubles, 5th most in a season since 2000 for a UNT player. Desiree Colonel been great. Desiree Wooden had been great. All of our players are cooking right now, and we're doing everything well right now.
And Austin, what did you see in that SMU game?
He kind of touched on the point already that it was kind of an overall pretty solid game for them, and I think they're really coming out of halves in multiple games with a lot of intensity, with a lot of energy. And like he said, Tamisha Lampkin is huge right now with these double-doubles right now, with these rebounds, these second opportunities, these taking away second opportunities from the teams. And, I just think that they're playing big-time basketball right now, and it's showing. We're number 1 in the conference right now, and it's really showing for them.
And we had just talked about the men's team struggling in this conference, but the women's team doing the opposite. Is it the coaching? Is it the players? Is it luck? Is it skill? John?
I mean, the players are really talented, but you have to give the credit to Jason Burton. I mean, this is a program that has not been successful. This is already one of our most wins in a season, and we have 6 games left. I mean, this is an elite coaching job, and I think he's destined for big things.
Austin, your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. Let's look at last season. Overall, 11-20 record, 8-12 in conference, and we basically are almost matching those losses with wins this season. And I think it's a huge turnaround for Coach Burton. And I think he's really got the team, and he's showing a lot of faith and a lot of respect towards the players, and you can see that. And he's showing high confidence in them. And I think that's huge when you're coaching a team to be a player's coach to your players.
And it's still a little early, but March, it's kind of right around the corner. But where do you think the Mean Green will end up in this conference for the women's team? Austin, go back to you.
I think they're going to stay in the same place that they are at the number 1 spot like we're talking about. They're just playing big-time basketball. They're coming out of halves, against FAU with that 14-0 run that spanned over 6 minutes. I think that's really big when you're looking at your basketball teams. Obviously, I'm big on stamina, and they're coming out big. They're outplaying teams, and they're making it hard for the teams to form a comeback late in games.
Yeah, let's talk about these next 3 games for the UNT women's team. They have some challenges along the road. UTSA, Charlotte, and UAB. John, do you think maybe they can go 3-0 right there? What are you thinking?
I'm more confident that your Mean Green will win out the rest of the season, win the conference tournament, and win a game in March Madness. This is a dangerous team that is going to play well the rest of the season.
All right, and real quick, guys, they beat FAU 67-57, playing a pretty dominant performance against them. Lampkin getting it done. There's several players on this team. What was y'all's big keys to that game, Austin?
I kind of mentioned, that big 14-0 run that spanned over 6 minutes. They played 20 minutes and a half. That's 14 minutes in order for a team to form a comeback. They were up big time at one point, and I think they kind of made it difficult or even impossible for a team to come back at that point.
And John, real quick.
Yeah, Tamisha Lampkin, 9 offensive rebounds. That's all you need to say.
That's right. And the UNT men's team plays tonight at 7 p.m. against Memphis, so make sure to check them out. And next, we'll be talking about the Dallas Stars when we come back, so don't go anywhere.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounced checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me?
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
There's no harm in wanting to have fun while in college, but it's easy to lose track of how much you've had. Apps like Drink Control and Alkadroid can help keep track of your consumption and blood alcohol levels. If you or someone else does drink too much, the signs of alcohol poisoning are as follows: pale skin, vomiting, confusion, low body temperatures, irregular breathing, blacking out, and is hard to wake up or cannot be woken up.
Dude, are you okay? Hey, what's wrong? Wake up.
It's an exciting time of year, but it's important to be responsible. If you suspect someone is suffering from alcohol poisoning, get help immediately. You will not get in trouble for seeking help if you are underage. For more info and resources, go to UNT's Division of Student Affairs.
Welcome back into Sports Zone. I'm your host, Trey Francis, and joined alongside me to talk about this Dallas Stars team that's melting the ice. I got Jacob Calhoun and Matt Wagner. Matt, I just said it. They're melting the ice. How are they doing it?
I mean, it's their offense, right? Their offense has been chugging along, especially with that top line, Hintz, Robertson, Pavelski, and also that second line being a big addition with Duchesne, Marchment, being that those two guys that have been in Segi being those top contributors so far.
And Jacob, for you, who's been showing up for the Stars team?
Honestly, their offense. The first two lines, like Matthew was saying, have been really showing up for them. Sagan on pace for 20. He hasn't done that in years. I'm really excited to see him try to get there. I think that he might get there. I think he's on pace for 29 this season.
Yeah, so far, yes.
But I think that Sagan really showing up is helping their offense, but definitely their offense is what's helping them going along.
Yes, and the Stars team, they are on a win streak. And now let's talk about the goalie play. Jake Ottinger getting it done once again. I mean, he's unstoppable. He's played well all year long, and now he's really shown what he's made of. Matt, what are your thoughts on Ottinger?
Yeah, he's been showing pretty good as to why he was chosen as an all-star, right? He's been pretty good, and I thought that's great, right? Because I thought that injury, that's going to slow him down a little bit. But no, he's been right back to it. That 906 save percentage has been absolutely perfect, right? And against a good goaltender like you say, Saros for the Predators, I mean, Saros in himself should be an all-star as well, which he was. And I think, for Ottinger, keep up that play. And then when you get a little bit tired, then you got Wedgwood to back you up.
That's right. Wedgwood has also been contributing pretty well right behind him. You mentioned it. Jacob, now going to go to you. Talk about this goalie play. Ottinger playing well. What do you think?
Ottinger has honestly really been playing well. Honestly, not his best season stat-wise, but I'd say it's up there with one of his better seasons. I think that probably either last season or the season before that was definitely his best season. But this season, I think he's putting it up there. Yes, he was an all-star, but I don't think he should have been the Stars all-star.
I agree. I would agree with you right there. I would have gone with either Matt Duchesne, as we said earlier before the show.
Duchesne, Hintz, yeah, definitely.
And in that last game, they played against the Hurricanes have a pretty decent offense, y'all. I mean, there's several good players on that team, and Ottinger had a lot of shots against him. He had 34 saves, only allowing 2 goals. Matt, I mean, talk about the Canes offense and how the Stars defense held up against them.
No, they did really good. One guy that I thought was a really good player for the Stars was Jordan Stahl. He's a little older, being in the league a little bit. He's got those hands and those vision, right? He's been really good. Another guy that I thought was really good for the Canes, who only got 1 point, was Martin Natchez. He looked really good against the Stars, but the Stars defense held tough, right? And that's something the Stars need him to do, right? The last couple of games, I know people rag on the Stars defense a little bit, but, overall, it was a good showing by the defense.
And, Jacob, who did you like for the Canes on offense?
Honestly, yeah, Stahl, I think, really just kind of stole the show for the Canes offense, beating Miro on that one goal that he had. Yeah. That really hurt as a Stars fan, but watching him do that kind of reminded me of old Jordan Stahl.
Now let's switch it up to the Stars offense. They've been going crazy. They have all sorts of playmakers, only Ottinger being that one all-star, but several playmakers, Robo, Hintz, Pavelski, Duchesne. All these guys are able to score goals, and in that game, Hintz, Marchment, Robo, and Duchesne all scored. Now, Jacob, what's the core of this Stars offense? Why are they so good?
I mean, this Stars offense has proven themselves this year. They really have. Hintz is finally stepping up. I think that he's playing as the player that he had that potential to be when we got him, honestly. Robo really stepping into it all. Obviously had a tremendous season his rookie season, kind of regressed a little bit last year, but I think he's starting to step up again to where he was his rookie season. And finally, like I was saying earlier, Sagan trying to get to 20 again, hopefully soon. I'm really hoping that Sagan gets to that 20 goal soon. But yeah, I think that that top line altogether, as well as Wyatt Johnston, finally kind of like stepping up and getting there.
Yeah, Wyatt Johnston, the kid. He's a young guy, but he's making a big difference out there. And Matt, what are your thoughts on the Stars offense?
No, it's been great. I thought that last night's game was great. You saw the offense click a little bit more than in previous games. One thing I did noticed was Robertson after the game, right? After that win, he had some positive things to say, but he said that we need to be more consistent, right? He said we need to win. We can't have these games where we have one win and then 2 losses, right? He said if we want to stay in first in division standings, we have to stay on top of the league.
Yeah, that Stars offense, I mentioned already, it's really good, but the inconsistency has been a problem throughout the season. How can they get past that inconsistency, Matt?
For me, I think it's more about, the goaltending play has been good, but I think it's just defense, right? You do have elite defensemen in Harley and Haskin, and, I'd love to see a little bit more Haskin. I know people crap on Suter a lot, but Suter's pretty good defensive-wise. But I like to see a little bit more in terms of letting Ottinger see the puck a little bit better. The typical those Carolina goals, he was on him. He didn't see the puck as well. But they just have to do a better job of cleaning out, and especially the loss to Evgeny Dodonov. That's been tough, especially with the fractured leg that he has.
Yeah, that is a tough one. And the defense, I'm gonna switch over to you, Jacob. The defense, they've been giving him a lot of shots. Luckily, Ottinger, he's a stud back there. But I mean, what does the defense need to do to get themselves back together and help out their buddy Ottinger back there?
Honestly, this defense really needs to figure out how they can help Ottinger. Obviously, like Matthew said, letting Ottinger see more shots is going to help a lot. But I think that as well, they're blocking the shots that they need to, and it's helping. But even we saw when they were playing the Leafs, even that block shot can go in, and that really hurt them in that Leafs loss. But I do think that finding those guys that can block more shots, but also help give Ottinger more looks.
And touch on that Leafs game really quick. The Dallas Stars penalty kill has not been the greatest across the league. They've struggled in the last week or two with that. Matt, talk about their penalty kill game. I mean, why have they struggled so much?
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed about Pete DeBoer's system is that he has guys that, and we look at his 10 years in New Jersey and San Jose, that's kind of what they play, the box format, right? And that's a simple term, but it's one of those things where some of those pucks just don't bounce your way, and that's a little tough. And I think if you can get a good power play penalty kill quarterback back there, that could help the quarterback percentage knock up a little bit.
And Jacob, the Stars have a tough one coming up against the Predators. The Stars have not beaten the Predators this season. What's it going to take for the Stars to finally beat them?
They just need to beat the goalie, Soros. I think that's killed them both times. Yuri Soros, absolutely incredible goalie up there in Nashville. I really think that if the Stars want to win this, they need to beat Yuri Soros.
Yes, they do, and he's been so good. I mean, one thing that's been an issue for the Stars is that top line, right? Usually you saw Suter and Haskin out there against that top line with Forsberg out there, but now you're going to start seeing, I think, more of that Harley, Haskin combination, right? And I think that's going to be very beneficial because you saw DeBoer, he's been switching up those defensive pairings, keeping the lines the same, but those offensive pairings have been a little bit different, so hopefully he can conjure up a way for them to stop them.
Yeah, and the Stars in their they've won, 6 out of the last 7 games, and the Predators have lost, many of their last few games. Jacob, do you think that carries into this game?
I think it will carry into this game. I think that obviously the Stars are on a pretty hot streak right now, but they just struggle against this Nashville team, and I don't know what it is. This Nashville team, on paper, doesn't look great, but
most definitely,
we just have always struggled. I feel like every year I always say this: we always struggle against Nashville. Nashville is our Achilles heel, to be honest. I think that we just haven't found a way to get around this Nashville team.
But at the same time, the games against the Predators have been some of the most fun and exciting games, the most high scoring. And Matt, do you think this one's going to be a high-scoring venture, low-scoring venture? Where do you kind of see that playing out?
I'm going to say a low-scoring venture, right? Because if you're the Stars, you don't want that top line to get any more than one or 2 points. So I'd look at this as a low-scoring game. One guy that I think needs to step up if you're the Predators, Yakov Trenin. He's only got 11 points in 30 games. That's got to change. And obviously we get to see the return of Denis Gurianov on that fourth line for the Predators.
And Jacob, what do you think? Give me a score prediction for this one. What are you thinking?
I think it's going to be really tight. I'm going to go 3-1 Stars, but I say the Stars have an empty netter.
I'm going to go 2-1 Stars in overtime.
2-1, man. You boys are going low. I am going sky high. Give me the Stars 6-5. And as we wrap up those Stars, guys, we are going to go to talk about the NFL honors. So make sure to stay with us.
The do's and don'ts of the Pole Rec Center. See that man over there? Please do not hog weights. Instead, do this. Another important part is having an attentive spotter. See, here is an example of a non-attentive spotter. Instead, do this. Now we head to the track, which should be pretty easy, just it's important to pay attention to the way the track goes. Remember to wipe down the equipment after you're done using it. The towels are provided by the gym, so it's pretty easy to wipe down the equipment when you are done. Thank you for using the Pole Recreation Center.
Welcome back into Sports Zone. To join me to talk about NFL honors and the awards around the league, I have Sydney Johnson and Sean Hunley. Sydney, going to talk about it with you first. Lamar Jackson, we saw he got MVP. What did you think about that? Was he supposed to get that? You thought he was going to get it? Give me your thoughts.
You know, I think there's no question that Jackson is definitely a skilled player. He's very talented, but with the stature of the Ravens defense this season, I feel like he should be able to lock games like the ones against the Chiefs down. I think that, you know, to win that type of award, we should be getting a little bit more of results. So while he is a good player, I would like to see more out of him personally.
Did you think that someone else should have gotten it, maybe a Pat Mahomes type, or you think that Jackson deserved it?
You know, again, he is a talented player. Mahomes has definitely been doing everything that he needs to do, coming with his second Super Bowl in a row now. I think it's like a Pat Mahomes era right now. So I do think that maybe another player would have been a better option for that award. But again, you know, we love to see Jackson doing his thing, and I think he deserves some recognition, but I do want to see a little bit more out of him.
Yeah, I think it definitely helps that he has both the wheels and the arm. We see him run around and throw rockets. Sean, what do you think here? He had 3,678 yards, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. What are your thoughts on Lamar Jackson, the MVP?
I love it. I mean, I think he earned it, man. I'll tell you what, you know, he didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher. He didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver. He did a lot of that with what he had. And look, you know, those stats you talked about, you know, 2 of those are actually a career best. You know, and this is not even his best year in passing yards. I believe it was his rookie year when he had that crazy good stat. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but I mean, that was his best year. And then the year after that is even better than the 821 rushing yards he had this year.
Yes.
I mean, so, you know, as much as we give him crap about, you know, oh, he can't throw, but he's so volatile on his legs that he can make plays happen just with one flick of his freaking waist, and he just goes off in the other direction.
Yes, we saw him make big plays against the Chiefs in that playoff game. You saw him just turn around real quick, and he zipped it. I wish I had that play to show you, but that was a crazy play. I think that's part of the reason why I think he deserves it. Now we're going to move over to Coach of the Year. Kevin Stefanski from the Cleveland Browns. They lost first round of the playoffs, but this year, Sydney, 11 wins for the Browns team. Do you think Stefanski is deserving of that award?
You know, considering the fact that he did kind of lose a couple of players throughout the season and took a couple of hits, I think that he deserved the award. I think he had a pretty good season as a coach. There might have been a couple coaches that outdid him, in my opinion, but I like to see him get this award. I think he deserved it.
And Sean, your thoughts on Kevin Stefanski?
100% agree. Absolutely agree, man.
Joe Flacco is his quarterback in the second half of the year.
The 5th quarterback he had, the 5th quarterback. I mean, to be able to deal with all kinds of adversity, you got Deshaun Watson, you got Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Who was their third guy? Doesn't matter.
The list was going on and on.
The list goes on and on and on. So the fact that Stefanski was able to pretty much will his team to the playoffs, and then Joe Flacco comes in for 5 games and balls out, absolutely. And his assistant coach won Assistant Coach of the Year. So, I mean, props to him, man.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and talk about Jim Schwartz since you mentioned him, the Cleveland defensive coordinator. We saw that the Browns were one of the best teams defensively. They really locked down teams that people counted the Browns out, especially in the beginning of the year. Sydney, talk about that Browns defense and how that was throughout the year and for Coach Schwartz.
Yeah, I think that they definitely stepped up and did exactly what they were supposed to do. They have a lot of really good key players that always dominate on the field. And yeah, I think that, he did what he could with the team that he had, and they did a good job. I'd like to see them do it again next season.
And Sean, your thoughts on Schwartz real quick and the Browns defense?
I think the Browns defense has been a killer, man. Myles Garrett won Defensive Player of the Year, and with all the issues that they had to face, just all the more power to him. And I'm sure that those fans have probably been waiting for a year like this and a season like this for a long time. So even though they lost to Lamar and the Ravens, I think they can absolutely count the season as a great season.
And it seemed like the Browns and the Texans were the ones that lit up this whole award show. I think half their team was there winning these awards. Now we're going to go over, you just touched on it, Myles Garrett, A&M. He's right here from the area. Defensive Player of the Year. There was a lot of speculation and controversy on who should have won this award.
Yeah.
Sydney, what's your take on this?
There was a huge controversy, and while Garrett is definitely a player, I would have to agree with the majority that TJ Watts was snubbed. I think that he outplayed Garrett in every category when you look at the numbers and you look at the records this season. So I agree with the majority that TJ Watts should have won the award. Of course, Myles Garrett is a talented player, but I think Watts was robbed. And
Sean, was he robbed?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think TJ Watt should definitely be two-time Defensive Player of the Year. But maybe the NFL doesn't want to give it to him back-to-back years. But the numbers I got right here don't lie.
Right.
That's right. Now we're gonna go to the Offensive Players of the Year. We'll start with Offensive Rookie C.J. Stroud for the Texans. This Texans team had a big turnaround from previous years. They're really making moves, and wouldn't be shocked if we see them go further in the playoffs next season. What's your thoughts on C.J. Stroud, Sydney, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Man, Stroud is on fire this season, throwing, I think, over 4,000 yards and 23 touchdowns. He's definitely a talented, amazing player, and I think that he deserved every bit of that award. I would like to see him. Honestly, I think he has a chance. If he has a season like this past one next year, I think he can win it again.
Yeah, and you guys keep stealing the words right out of my mouth, but, he had a great year. You give him some more, upgraded weapons, and things really changed for that Texans team. Sean, your thoughts on C.J. Stroud?
I want to touch on those numbers. So he's the fifth rookie to throw for 4,000 yards in a season, only behind, he's actually third behind Justin Herbert and Andrew Luck. He's got the most passing touchdowns for a Texans rookie and the most passing yards in a game. Weeks 9 and 10 were by far probably one of the best things we've seen for a rookie over that two-game span, 826 yards. This kid has put up records and numbers that the Texans team hasn't seen in quite a long time. So he deserved it, man. He's got it.
Yeah, now since we're staying there, we'll go ahead and talk about his teammate, Will Anderson, winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. He had 7 sacks. That's pretty good for a rookie. He drafted one of the first couple of picks. Sean, going to start with you on that one. Will Anderson Jr., what are your thoughts?
Third player to win Defensive Rookie of the Year behind his head coach, D'Amico Ryans, in 06 and Brian Cushing in 09. He had 2 sacks in Week 17 versus the Titans to secure the AFC South for those guys. I think the Texans' idea to move up and draft Will Anderson behind C.J. Stroud might have been one of the best things that they could have decided to do. And it's paid dividends, so I love it.
It was definitely smart. And Sydney, your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Sean on this one here. He went out and did what he needed to do, and everybody knows the Texans haven't had the greatest track record over the past couple of seasons, but I definitely think that key players like this one are going to elevate them to that next step and kind of improve their record as we go further along.
And we didn't talk about him, but Offensive Player of the Year, everyone kind of knows it already. Christian McCaffrey, CMC, getting the job done, plays running back, play wide receiver if you put him out there. Out of this list of people, I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey to win an award next year. Probably the same award. I would say MVP, but quarterbacks win the MVP. Who are y'all's thoughts? Out of this list, you pick one and tell me what award you think they'll win. Sean, I'll start with you.
I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey. I got to agree with you there, Trey. Led the NFL in rushing yards and he's tied for most touchdowns among non-quarterbacks. So, if CMC stays healthy like he did this year, he's just going to keep balling out in San Francisco.
Sydney, you sticking with us with CMC, or you got another opinion?
I think CMC is doing a good job. I think that it's his prime time. A lot of the players that are in their groove right now, I definitely see carrying over into next season. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say I agree with you guys on that one.
All right, well, looks like this ball was all about talking about the Texans and the Browns, and they played in the playoffs. But that will do it here on SportsZone. Make sure to follow us on social media. It's NTTV_sports. And stick around because nightly news is coming up in just a few minutes.